Good morning to all attendees. I am Professor Dr. Vishwajoy Chatterjee. I'm the Vice Chancellor of University of Engineering and Management, UEM Jaipur. And I'm sure that our webinar is audible and visible to you all. So a little bit of response from your side in the questions box will help us to keep the session interactive. So alongside me, you can see Professor Dr. Pradeep Sharma, who is the Registrar of UEM Jaipur. You can see Professor Dr. Anurag Hamilton, who is the IIC Head, Institutions Innovation Council Head at UEM Jaipur. And the presenter and the guest speaker for today is Mr. Jyotirmoy Saha, who is the founder of a very successful startup, which is Teknesya Networks. So today you will be hearing all from Jyotirmoy. Prior to that, I will request Professor Anurag Hamilton to tell a little bit about IIC, and then Mr. Jyotirmoy can take over from there.
Hello, good morning everyone. My name is Dr. Anurag Hamilton and I welcome you all on the behalf of Institute Innovation Council of UEM Jaipur. Institute Innovation Council was established in 2018 and since then we are conducting various activities in the field of innovation, IPR, and we have called various people from academia and industry. And today I welcome you on the webinar on how to plan for startup legal and ethical steps. And we have Jyotirmoy Saha. He's a very successful person. He has done a great job and he started a new firm. And I now request Mr. Jyotirmoy Saha to take over from him.
Hello everyone, very good morning to all. I am Jyotirmoy Saha. I am co-founder and managing director of Teknesya Networks Private Limited. Today I will be talking about how to plan for startups, legal and ethical steps. So let's start with just one second. So let's start with dreamer versus doers. There is 3,061 startups were born in India in 2020. Making it the third largest startup ecosystem in the world. In this webinar, I will cover from A to Z how to start a startup in India. There is a thin line of difference between the dreamers and the doers. Today, if you have taken an interest in how to start a startup in India, you have taken that leap of faith to become a doer. A startup is just growing a crop. You need to sow the seeds. Just one second, I'm having some issue. So a startup is just growing a core. You need to sow the seed, nurture it, and give it the right set of condition and take good care. In the end, you will reap your fruits of your labor. This brings us to the question how to start a startup in India. Don't worry, this is exactly where here. What is following a guiding list to do it from partnership to legalities and everything. We will cover those things in this webinar. So let's dive right into it. Let's start with the basic. Behind every startup, there is a story. And let me clear you one thing. Surely India may not be the first choice of starting a startup, but it is certainly rising to the occasion. And with this in mind, let's begin our amazing journey to together from the first step, the basics. According to Indian startup governance, a startup is an entity that is younger than 7 years with an annual turnover of less than INR 250 millions. More importantly, it must be registered in India. Behind every startup, there is a story. The story has one or more than one person who is inspired to bring about a change in society. Startup founders are connected with their idea very deeply. They work on this idea, mold it, shape it to form a useful product or service. In technical terms, a startup personifies a young company that is established by entrepreneurs. Those entrepreneurs are looking for various sources of funding to launch their product and develop it into a business. But how did the startups come into existence? The first evidence of startups is linked to Silicon Valley, but the fact is we can't place the pin on a particular year. Defining startups is not straightforward. Different economies have accorded different definition to a startup. Where India has set 7 years as the benchmark, Europe has set it at 10 years. In the USA, startups are called a shoestring operation, meaning something start with a tight budget. Since we are on the topic of how to start a startup in India, it is very important to know when India saw the emergence of these young companies. The emergence of startup is linked with entrepreneurship. In India, the entrepreneurial journey spirit were low before independence. Those who wanted to go down this road were confined to several impractical rules and regulations. After independence, the Indian economy's dream to become self-reliant did act as a fuel for entrepreneurs. Added to this, the newly found freedom provided confidence and cleared a path for the entrepreneurs. However, in this era, the primary focus was on developing large-scale industries so that the economy could thrive with the help of trickle-down effect. But after the liberalization reforms, the concept of startups began taking shape. As the Indian economy started to realize the benefit of privatization, interestingly, the real spike in the startup ecosystem were realized after 2008 recession. Moving forward, when we talk about the top startup in India, Paytm, Flipkart, Zomato, Ola, Kio.fit can't be missed. These are the applications that have picked India off from a lower position and taken it to the top spot in the startup ecosystem of the globe. Every startup that has become successful was not able to achieve it overnight. Becoming a success and transcending from every single stage of a startup is a gradual process. The amazing anecdote for this gradual expansion is Sales Fusion. The founder of Sales Fusion shares his success story of how we failed 3 times before building a startup that generates $400,000 per month in revenue today. Harishankar's story is one of the aptest personification of how to start a startup in India. In every startup ecosystem, failure is much important part as it is a success. But don't be discouraged and disheartened. You can ask any entrepreneur that and they will proudly tell you about their failure story. Before a success story, there is always a failure story. If you treat failure like a stepping stone, you will always know how to move up. Now that we have established the outer lining of building a startup company in India, let's move on to understand the innate fabric. Before you hire people or rent a space or even ask for a funding, what you do have except for one idea. Every startup begins with one idea backed by a vision, and with that vision we can build an empire. But let's focus on the idea first. The key to every successful business lies in a unique idea. Now, how can you get an idea about beginning a startup? What made Jamshedji Tata go on finding one of the best motor giants in the world? What led Dhirubhai Ambani into setting up a company whose current value is in billions? You will find one thing common if you take a closer look at all these industries and their founders, and that is they understood an issue that many people around them had. They analyzed the problem and work on a solution. That's how they started. So here is a quick 3-step process to identify great ideas for your startup company in India. Similarly, to the process Tata and Ambani probably carried out. Look for the problems. The key to getting ideas is to look for every small and or big problem in your daily life. You can note these problems on a paper or a notebook for the record. Go through this problem every day to find that one idea that will bring out the best result. Here are some of the startup ideas. They may ring some bells. Find a problem that messes with your mind while going through your list of problem. Look for those interest you more. For example, let's assume if you love to do craft work and look for a problem that consists of decorative items. Business is not only making about a lot of money, but it is also involves a factor of passion and interest. Do what you love to do, and that will turn out to be your greatest success. Find an innovative solution. Well, if you have a problem that you can solve and it is also of interest, it is crucial for you to look for an out of the box solution. For example, everyone can use a hammer to drive nails into the wood, but a nail gun makes it much easier and faster. Just like that, do your research about the solution to the problem that is already there, and find a better one. And so how to analyze your solution. Let's assume you have found a problem that people love downloading videos from Instagram, but it's hard to do it. You have thought about a solution and an application that helps them do that. How do you know that the solution is the correct one? Here is something you should continue to research. First one is product or service analysis. Well, the very first thing you need to check is what your product offers to the people. There might be some similar products in the market that tend to offer the same service as you. Hence, as mentioned above, you need to make your product or service a bit unique. India is a densely populated country, so your product quality matters a lot. For example, if you are developing a video downloading app for Instagram, you can also add other platforms. This means you can add the ability to download videos from YouTube, Facebook, Vimeo, etc. And second one is, does the market need your product or service? This is also the one of the most crucial question to ask yourself. After all, if your product or service is not liked or required in the market, it will be a dead end for you. So you need to make sure that your product or service is essential for the people. If we take the same example, a lot of people love to download and share content from Instagram. So if you conduct a comprehensive research on the market, you will get an idea about the demand for the product you are about to develop. The third one is, are you enjoying what you are doing? At last, all of this is not getting to last long unless you love it by your heart. Many of us have tried to work on a startup but could not carry it forward. The only reason behind behind this is the lack of interest and passion for it. For example, if you are not fond of coding, then building an app may not work well for you. So try working on developing a product or service that you are passionate about. Next step is validating the idea. So far, you have thoroughly analyzed your solution. Now it is time to closely analyze the market. This means that you need to make absolutely certain about how your product will perform in the market. First step is thorough market research. First step is thorough market research. This section includes all the necessary measures to make sure that your product or service in the market is new and unique. Here are some of key points. Make a brief layout of your product that includes its features and its uses, its audience, its benefits, etc. Search for similar products on the web to know the level of competition. If you find some of the similar products on the web, make sure you cross-check every aspect to find any similarities. Refer to customer reviews to know more about the low sides of the product. You can improve them in your product. Interact with the audience. This is the most fruitful aspect of the process. You will get to know some of the new things from the customer's point of view. You can refer various online forum websites to know about the customers' issues regarding the existing products. Make an online survey to know about the users' expectation and features that they want in the product. Some websites will help you build surveys like Key Survey, Typeform, SurveyMonkey, etc. Harness the power of social media by gathering reviews from your social circle. Discuss your idea with your known ones and know how they would like to the product to be. There is no perfect trick to know how your idea will perform in the market. You can only test and check if it works. Some of the budding entrepreneurs have faced a lot of failures before getting to the point they are at today. The next step is very crucial. Formulate a business plan. So let's start with the business plan. A business plan plays an indispensable role when starting a startup. It is business plan is a written document that includes all the necessary aspect of business, like business goals, business strategies, the time frame of goals, details about profit and loss, finances, marketing methodologies, etc. Some of the details aspect of a business plan include a brief summary of business that include all the major point, overview of business, legal structure, type of business, means of business, location, and more. A proper plan of operation, analysis of the market, details about the product and services, a detailed analysis to the market competition, information about the management team, financial plan, future goals, and projection. Naming your startup may seem like an easy thing, but it is not. Here are some consideration. Choose a name that resonates with your business. Take care of the keywords, make it easy to say and understand the psychology behind the name, and lastly, prevent long names. Startups and companies are run by people. You need to be careful when choosing people for your firm. The secret to successful hiring is this: look for the people who want to change the world. This quote by Mark Benioff summarizes the process of hiring good people to work with you. A great team is vital for your startup's growth. A 2013 study found that 60% of startups have faced the dust because the team was not right. While building your dream team that will help you reach the apex level of success, you need to consider this point. First one is self-assessment. You are that thread which is connected everyone on your team. So it is best to do as a self-assessment first before moving ahead. Self-awareness will get you unprecedented success because you will know your strength and limitations to work accordingly. And the second one is identify the main roles. Apart from your skill set and your co-founders, assess which other important roles are essential for your startup. The ideal roster for your team will also depend on the type of product or service. You may need an amazing designer, developer, marketer, or an executor of or some common roles. Build a startup culture. Let's get one thing straight: startups don't pay well. Startups in India or in any other country have limited amount of capital in their bank. Hence, they need to spend their money wisely, which also means hiring good people, but at a lower remuneration. So, what what makes people stick? A good culture, definitely a good culture. A good culture will ensure higher employee retention, a self-motivated environment, a productive workforce, and hiring and recruiting. India has a wide talent pool. You will find a lot of suitable candidates to work with. However, you must know where to look and what is the right hiring strategy. When it comes to find candidates, platform like LinkedIn, Glassdoor, Placement India, Indeed, Naukri are preferable. Interns can also play a role in your startup. They may lack experience, but they do bring some fresh ideas to the table. Most of them are ready to work just for the experience. Let's come to legalities. Understanding the legalities of starting a company in India has to be done at the proof of concept stage. Some startups do not take this consideration seriously and end up making legal mistakes that hurt them badly. Indian startup registration can be both done online and offline. There are two things to note here. One is incorporating your startup, and second is registering it under the Startup India program. Incorporating a startup or a company includes obtaining digital signature certificate, directory identification number. Once your startup is incorporated, you become eligible to enlist it with the Startup India program. We will talk about the program in further section. But for now, you must understand the process required to register your startup with the program. You can choose one out of four kind of ownership model. Your choices are: first one is proprietorship. No registration is required, and legally you as a proprietor have the sole ownership of the company. For taxation, your income will be taken as the taxable income. You can't transfer the ownership of the company to any other person. Lastly, you can't call in foreign investors to fund your venture. Note that a sole proprietorship doesn't count as a startup in India by Startup India. Partnership. A partnership needs two people to start with, and here you may or may not choose to register your company. However, if registered, you will come under the ambit of all legalities and compliance applicable to a partnership company. A partnership firm can only be listed in Startup India if it is less than 5 years of age from its incorporation. Limited liability partnership or LLP. LLP is in India needs to be registered under the LLP Act of 2008. It comes under the ambit of Ministry of Corporate Affairs and must have at least two partners. Further, in India, an LLP mode of operation is preferred over the registration process. There are various benefits incorporating as an LLP, including operational flexibility, fewer compliances, among others. And the last one is private limited company. They are registered under Companies Act 2013. To be more precise, such a company can have a workforce of up to 200 members, and it needs to have at least two directors. There are additional legal formalities to register as a private limited company in India, but they have access to several other benefits accorded by the state government. Until the time you're not gaining some traction, not registering the company is fine, but once you enter a stage where you're ready to register, the real complexities begin. From compliance to taxation, labor laws, environmental laws, and other legal requirements are meant to be fulfilled. As you all know, 90% of the startups fail in first 5 years of their launch, and many of these are because of their money crunch. Sometimes the founders do not get enough fuel to keep the engine running, while others fail in using it optimally. Therefore, getting your startup funded is important, but gaining the ability to utilize the money smartly also matters. Right from the beginning, you need to start making a startup budget that is well within your limitation. Once you have gained the funding, start spending it smartly and on those things that help you grow. But before discussing how to use the money, let's first know how to acquire it. There are various methods of raising money for your startup in India. First one is friends and family. We always look towards family first if we want something, especially with the societal norms and family culture existing in India. Asking your friends and family for initial funding looks like a great option. However, understand this is a two-way road, and there is some specific pros and cons associated with this method. Make sure you consider them before jumping in. Second one is bootstrapping. One of the best method to fund your startup is by your own saving or bootstrapping. The reason being that you won't have to answer to anyone's where the money went. There is no interest, no complication about paying the money back, and so on. Third one is incubator. Early stage startup can look forward to getting the funding from business incubators and accelerators. The difference between an incubator is they teach and train in everything. Just like a child is taught everything from the day it is born. Accelerators, however, are a bit advanced, and they move on to help you run or leap ahead in your venture. There are various incubators and accelerators in India that you can choose from. Angel investor. There are a lot already established angel investors in India who have already funded several startups. Angel investment is a kind of funding activity whereby individuals with surplus cash and interest to invest in different baskets help startups launch and expand. The Indian angel investor network is also huge. You will be able to find the right investor for your startup. The last one is venture capitalists. Venture capitalists are the biggest shark in the ocean of startup ecosystem. These guys invest big and also help already expanding startup to outgrow themselves. In the Indian parlance, most of the VCs have come from other countries and set base here. Here is a list of top like venture capitalists in India. However, note that the convincing the VCs is not so easy. Having a credible and really unique pitch is equally important as having a disruptive and innovative product. And one more thing is crowdfunding. Crowdfunding is also a great option to fund your startup, provided you have an idea that convinces the masses. uh, Several people will look at your product here there, and if they like it, they place their investment to develop your product and take it to the next stage ahead of a prototype. Crowdfunding generates many benefits, one of which is free marketing, since your investor will surely spread the word for your idea and rope in more people. And bank loans, funding from the banks can take the forms of loans or in line of credit, that is basically working capital loan. Entrepreneurs still considered bank as their first preference and safe bet to get funding for their startup. Seeing the rising trends or startup in India, several banks have dedicated funding option for SMEs and startups. Loans entail the standard process wherein you provide the banks with necessary details, business model, and collateral to get the funding. Then the last one is government grants. The Indian government also provide funding to startups in India via several grants and schemes. Government schemes for startup in India like Mudra loans, 10,000 crore startup fund, and the others show that the government wants to develop a conducive environment for the startups in the country. Startups bring growth to the Indian economy, and the government is reciprocating, further bolster that the growth with such schemes and grants. Within this funding form, the Startup India scheme deserve special mention. So, the Startup India scheme is a flagship program under the Startup India initiative. This scheme was launched with a motivation of bolstering the innovation of new products and services in the Indian economy. Under this scheme, the startups have to undergo DPIIT registration and complete other formalities to get certain benefits, some of them which are simplifying the work process from registration to setting up the basic infrastructure, providing financial support to startups via different government-run startup funding scheme, helping the founders grow their network and exploit such opportunities presented by the government. Early stage startup can also get benefit from income tax exception, intellectual property benefits, along with a few other perks. So let's talk about the growth now. Once you have established a basic foundation of your startup, you can think of growing. More importantly, you need to know the right time to grow or scale your startup. But before we go there, you must be prepared to scale your startup. How to start growing is a different debate. Initially, you need some solid footwork on the ground. Also remember that knowing when to be bearish and as is as important as being bullish in your startup. As a founder, you need to know when not to scale your startup. Scaling is like work in progress, and you need to leverage foolproof marketing strategies for keeping up with the growth momentum. Apt marketing strategies ensure user engagement, convinces them to take the desired action. One of the most important things to understand in how to start a tech startup in India, practicing foolproof marketing strategies with apt marketing, you will gain the attention of the audience and excite their thinking neurons. And if the product is something that customer really want, they will engage and reach out to you. Sometimes humankind is faced with situations that are completely out of our control. It can be natural disaster, war-like situation, or even a pandemic. The important thing is to understand that the situation may be temporary, but their effects can be permanent. So on your part, you need to prepare yourself beforehand to mitigate the risks related to such situation. At present, we are facing a pandemic, and literally nobody was prepared for it, but we can only change our strategies after we are in this kind of turmoil. So this brings us to the end of how to startup in India guide. We have talked about everything that you need to follow, understand, and practice to run a successful business. And if you are thinking about when you should start your startup, understand that any time is good time to start a company. Something very well said by Ron Conway. I have tried to include everything that you need to know about starting a startup in India. If you have any question, please let me know via chat. Thank you.
So, Jyotirmoy,
Yes.
yeah, I'm not finding any questions over here, but I have one question from my side. Uh, how do you think that in your startup company, what challenges you faced during the process of establishment and later when the company was started to make it like a brand? What are the challenges you faced?
Okay. See, I think the most common branding challenge that everyone faces in their startup journey. That first one is at first we treated our brands like our asset. So that's not how you think your brand is. Your brand is totally a face of your company, or totally basically brand does the all the PRs you need for your startup. And the second one is the challenge we face. The second most vital challenge we face is like building a digital strategy to like make our brand grow more stronger and reach more people is the most complex and like most complex thing we have faced. And the digital strategy is very dynamic and a need of a different mindset. The reality is the audience is in control here. The new capabilities, creative initiatives, and the new ways to work with other marketing modalities are required. Adjusting the digital marketing focus from the offering and the brand to the customer sweet spot, which is to say the activities and opinions in which they are interested to even passionate about. So that's all the challenges we have faced building a brand from our in our startup journey.
Jyotirmoy,
Yes, sir.
actually, I have also one question for you. So, is it
Sure.
necessary for any startup to register with the government, or do we need to register the company, or without that, startups can run their business? So, is it necessary for them to register?
Yeah. See, the registration process is in the registration process we have seen that many startup don't have the interest to register like following all the legalities we need to do. The thing is, when you start gaining some traction, like when your client or when your customer is asking for invoice and asking for taxation exemptions and they need to verify your existence properly for doing the like proper monetary transaction, you need to register your startup with government. Like your need is very important in this particular format, so that the client can trust you and client can give you more projects and more like you can give everyone more services from your startup. So it is very important.
Okay, so is there any kind of fees that we need to pay for registration?
Yeah. Basically for the LLP and private limited company, you don't need to pay more than 25,000 rupees, including all the government fees and consultation fees required by the like attorneys or the lawyers. So like 25,000 rupees is like the upper limit, and there is if you don't need the attorneys, or you can like you can file up all the legalities yourself, you need to I think only 12,000 rupees is more than enough to form a company, form a private limited company.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
So, Dr. Anurag, I hope you can go ahead with winding up the session. I hope there are no further questions.
Yes, sir. So
Thank
there
you,
are no further
Jyotirmoy. I
questions
think
in
yes. Please go ahead, Dr. Anurag.
Yes, sir. So there are no further questions. So I would like to thank Mr. Jyotirmoy Saha for his time and introducing us about the different legalities and explaining different things, because a lot of people talk about how to start a company and how how a startup works, but actually how we need to register and what are the technicalities and what are the legalities that we need to follow are explained by Jyotirmoy. So I really want to thank him for this. And I want to thank all the participants for coming to the webinar and learning new things. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jyotirmoy. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Anurag. Thanks. Thank you, all the participants. I think now we can wind up. Thanks a lot.